Welcome to BioLongevity Doc, your podcast for true health, innovation, and a new quality of life for your longevity. I am Dr. Robert Border. As a dental all-rounder, I have been working in intensive practice for around 30 years, focusing on prevention, periodontology, implantology, and especially complex aesthetic, metal-free full restorations. Additionally, I am a specialist in ceramic implants and holistic biological dentistry, as well as a certified sports dentist. With this decades-long background, optimizing overall health and thus longevity is a matter close to my heart. As a passionate amateur athlete and former classical musician, I am always curious about new paths and technologies. As an all-rounder and specialist, I strive to bridge the gap with you from ancient wisdom to new knowledge. And together, we bring the best of all worlds together. Innovation, high-tech, and artificial intelligence are just as much a part of a modern lifestyle for me as proven routines from ancient wisdom, lived practice, and scientific curiosity. Because true health is the foundation for performance, energy, and success today more than ever. In the BioLongevity Doc podcast, you get not only concrete tips, but the connection of the latest research results, advanced technologies, and practical routines that fit directly into your daily life. Our shared mission to use the BioLongevity framework so that health and wealth become tangible for you in all of life, in your career, in sports, and in personal growth. Here, inspiring stories, current studies, honest exchange, and concrete tools await you, bringing you a step further every day. Together with the BioLongevity Alliance and our international Longevity to Go community, we make longevity understandable, innovative, and directly actionable, always with an eye on the opportunities of artificial intelligence and high tech. So subscribe now to the BioLongevity Doc podcast and start your journey with us toward more energy, success, and true quality of life. Not every new hype is necessarily proven to be successful in the long term. But on the other hand, there are extremely effective tools, let's say, for example, supplements that are extremely well scientifically proven over long periods with huge cohorts of test subjects. One example, creatine. The mechanism of action and positive effects of creatine are super well documented in over 70,000 studies. And of course, not just for some bodybuilder effects, which they undoubtedly have too, but for truly everyday overall health, because creatine can do a lot. It's not only extremely important for muscular health and energy provision, and not just for competitive athletes, but also for everyday life, but it's also for brain function. Extremely important, as it also optimally supports short-term working memory in a figurative sense. Moreover, studies have shown that depression levels are also significantly reduced by a good supply of creatine. By the way, women, vegans, and vegetarians are particularly prone to creatine deficiency and a tendency toward depression. Why? Because a natural important source of creatine is simply meat. I'm not a particularly big meat eater myself, but I simply have to objectively admit that high-quality meat provides good, important, and essential protein sources in our diet and ensures we get a sufficient amount of protein in the first place, as longevity medicine clearly shows that daily per body weight, roughly, meaning from lean body mass or fat-free body mass, you should consume per body weight about 1.2 to 1.5 to 1.8 grams. Experts disagree, but in any case, significant amounts, let's say, an average of 1.5 grams per lean body mass. And meat really helps a lot there, along with eggs and other, of course, vegan sources. But high-quality proteins are essential, especially in longevity medicine, but also for physical performance. But I've digressed now. Statistically, creatine deficiency occurs. This is seen more often in women as well as in people who follow vegan and vegetarian diets. Yet, depression tends to be even more pronounced in these groups, making the positive effect of creatine supplementation especially significant in helping to prevent it. And besides that, energy supply in daily life, sports, and even cognitive function, meaning the brain, is significantly optimized. And this is very, very clearly supported by studies. This means that with creatine, you can absolutely achieve a truly massive, highly affordable, and remarkably powerful effect on your fitness and longevity in a science-based, safe, and well-monitored way, especially over the long term. Another very affordable, yet also highly effective tool that you can use is magnesium supplementation. Ideally, using magnesium in a form that is easily absorbed by the body, such as magnesium glycinate or magnesium citrate. Bisglycinate, an amino acid, because it's absorbed particularly well. And magnesium is also typically a nutrient that's lacking in our society. You could even call it a magnesium deficiency epidemic, much like the epidemics of vitamin D or omega-3 fatty acid deficiency. Let's stick with magnesium. Magnesium is a relatively inexpensive and extremely effective tool. And almost all of us don't get enough of it. It works on extremely diverse levels and through many hundreds of mechanisms of action, an enormous improvement in almost all physiological and biochemical regulatory areas of daily life. And you can see this is a great example of how you can achieve huge improvements with simple, inexpensive means. And the perennial favorite, vitamin D3, is also such a super effective, super inexpensive supplementation that has enormous health potential. And of course, omega-3 as well. Unfortunately, it's usually a bit more expensive because high-quality omega-3 products are actually not that cheap. But you should really make sure, because you can usually only get it to a limited extent from your daily diet, that you truly supplement omega-3 fatty acids optimally. Quality is absolutely crucial, and it definitely pays off. Healthy vessels, healthy heart, healthy brain, healthy eyes, healthy teeth, healthy gums, and so on and so forth. Healthy skin, of course, healthy bones, very important, better wound healing, accelerated bone healing, and so on. And ultimately, if you give up other stimulants, maybe the odd sweet or the occasional alcohol, then you save on those costs and can actually swap it for targeted optimal supplementation. And of course, you get a much greater improvement in your health. So final word for today. Optimal supplementation helps enormously and is a massive risk reduction for your daily life. Because the premise should always be prevention is better than therapy, or prevention is better than aftercare. That's the be-all and end-all in all of longevity medicine and in dentistry as well, of course. And that is, as I said, the most important thing. But the good thing is, it's never too late. You can always turn things around even after bad phases of life. You can still achieve huge longevity improvements. Of course, the odds are a bit worse then, but studies clearly show that even at 60 plus, for example, if you start doing gentle exercise for the first time, you still get a huge longevity improvement effect. It would have been even better to start at a younger age, doing targeted exercise, not necessarily super extreme competitive sports from a cardiovascular perspective, but at least moderate exercise, or even a bit more, clearly shows in many studies that cardiovascular resilience is enormously improved even in later decades of life by this foundation. And if possible, you should of course maintain this for life and always stay active. And for that, you also need healthy joints, among other things, because the joints naturally guide the movement. And you should also be able to practice the sport of your choice pain-free, anything that's fun. And that simply requires healthy joints. And apart from the fact that you should perform sports with the correct, gentle technique, so not necessarily playing soccer like crazy, into old age, it might not be the most joint-friendly sport, but other fitness activities, if done properly, actually contribute to joint health, because what you don't use eventually rusts and is lost. But what else should you perhaps pay attention to? Collagen intake, omega-3 intake, joint nourishing substances like glycosaminoglycans, chondroitin sulfate, what else? The usual players that are essential for synovial joint health and nutrition. You actually have to supply those to have healthy joints for longer. And in general, the overall systemic tendency toward inflammation must, of course, be reduced to a minimum. How can you do that? By, for example, also cleaning up sources of inflammation in the oral cavity or eliminating them, and also taking preventive care to identify, treat, and ideally eliminate inflammations like periodontitis or silent inflammations around dead roots, because this also minimizes the overall systemic health and inflammatory burden. And you have to, through diet or supplementation, create an environment that shifts the overall inflammatory tendency toward anti-inflammatory. And that's where our omega-3 comes into play again, because it's a crucial key substance for influencing the overall balance between inflammatory versus anti-inflammatory in a positive way. There's hardly anything more effective than optimal omega-3 supplementation to be ideally inflammation-free in the long term. This also helps us prevent joint damage, cardiovascular damage, damage related to neurodegenerative diseases, and of course, indirectly, oxidative stress and secondary damage caused by inflammatory processes.